Hi, I'm Mark, G1DX, and thank you for joining Henry and I today at the Martin Lynch & Sons showroom. Today we are going to have a bit of a focus on the SDRplay nRSP-ST. Long mouthful, but in essence their new networked spectrum processor. But before we go into that, we thought maybe we'd just give you a quick 5 seconds on who SDRplay are and where have they come from. So SDRplay, they're a British company, been going about 11 years, just over, and their first product was the RSP-1A. Now I know this says B because they no longer make the RSP-1A, but the RSP-1B is very much the close relative, the difference being in that it's in a metal box, whereas the original one was in a plastic box. This was, in its way, a bit of a pathfinder for many other SDRs, in that it brought extremely high quality 1 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz reception, and also offered a really clean and clear band scope stroke pan adapter option for radios that didn't have a pan adapter or a spectrum scope. So coupled with software products such as OmniRig, and using their classic software, SDR Uno, the RSP-1A was a no-brainer pan adapter. And in fact, when I used to get people coming in the shop, if they bought nothing else, I used to say, treat yourself to one of these, because for its money, genuinely, you will not get a finer multi-spectrum receiver. It is extremely good. Especially with all its plugins available. Following on from the RSP-1A, there came out the RSP Duo, and by its name I'm guessing you can work out what Duo stood for, in that it had 2 receivers in it. 2 receivers gave you a couple of options. Firstly, you could listen to I was going to say to 2 frequencies simultaneously. You can kind of do that with many SDRs, but the big thing you can do with this and offers you is the ability to do antenna diversity. And diversity reception is very tricky for folks that know about it, maybe do a bit of Googling, but you can in effect kind of use one signal to cancel out the noise of another signal. So you had RSP Duo, and then out came the DX. Now the DX is a very close relative to the RSP-ST, in that this one has enhanced capabilities for VLF reception. So just to remind us again, you didn't mishear me and I didn't missay it. This does go down to 1 kilohertz. That's audio. And you can imagine that that is definitely VLF, and VLF needs special handling. And the DX offers both enhanced filtering down at the VLF frequencies, but also the sample rate goes into HDR mode, which I truly haven't experimented with. But reason why I'm mentioning this, the network SDR, the RSP-ST, also has the DX circuitry in it. So you've got in the new ST both the DX plus all the connectability and connectivity of the new model. So that's an overview. So now let's clear the table and see what's so special about the ST. So here is the SDRplay RSP-ST. And I've got my laptop out because in a minute we're also going to have a look at another, if you like, sister edition that's come out new along with the ST model. So here it is, the RSP-ST, based on the RSP-DX. And the big difference with this and the other ones is that you can see by the Wi-Fi aerial and the Ethernet port on the back, this is a connected product. So by that I mean you can connect into it either using Wi-Fi or Ethernet, but critically this has got a quad-core ARM processor in it, which means that you can either run this as a web server, which is very trick, and by that I mean you can log on to this using Microsoft Edge, Firefox, you name it, any browser, and run a session from here directly without using a PC as a server in the middle. Also, you can connect into this using a computer client. And the great thing is for many Mac and Linux users, these clients will run either in Windows, Linux, Mac, soon to be announced Android and iOS. So, and the iOS or Android are in work, but they will be out very shortly. I thought we'd just have a quick look at the back of the RSP-ST to see what we have here. So, of course, Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is there to use as a backup. Preferred connectivity would be through Ethernet, because this does give out quite a lot of information, and I didn't mention that it also can accept several connections simultaneously from different users. So it's a true multi-user platform. And you can imagine if you put things over Wi-Fi, they tend to get chopped up a bit, so you don't want that when you're using an SDR, when you're receiving. You will notice also that we have 3 antenna ports, BNC and 2 SMA antenna ports. Differences are this one will go up to 2 gigahertz. This one is software limited to 200 megahertz approx. That's because that's the capability of the BNC. And the middle SMA antenna port effectively is a doppelganger of this one. However, this one also has the ability to put a bias voltage on there if you're looking to power an active preamplifier. You have a 24 meg reference in. If you want to calibrate this to a reference source, you can, and have that exactly smack on frequency. However, this does have a TXO in it, and it is extremely accurate unit, or stable I should say, and you can trim the accuracy in the software if you want to calibrate it to a known reference source. The USB connector is there. It's frankly not been implemented yet because it's not necessary, but it will be available as an option for folks that want to use USB connectivity as opposed to Ethernet in the future. The flash port, which is there, is currently just used for resetting the unit in firmware. Not normally needed, because the great thing also about this unit is there's also an accompanying program for this which will automatically go to the SDRplay website, check for updates and firmware flash the unit automatically. So you don't have to mess about with cards or downloading programs, nothing. You just click on the button, it does it all itself over the Ethernet port. And then of course we've got the USB-C power socket, and in the box also is a SDR approved 5 volt power supply with a USB connector on it. I say approved because of course, as most of us know, if you've just got a mobile phone charger, they tend to be a bit noisy. So this is actually approved by SDR for use with the SDRplay, because you don't want to ruin your lovely bands with a not so good USB power supply. On the front of the RSP-ST, of course, you've got your lights. You've got activity lights and a power light. Now, nothing too spectacular there, but at least you know the unit's switched on from the front. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to fire up my laptop. We're going to have a look at some of the software, because the other big deal about this unit is that it also accompanies the release of SDR Connect. So anyone that's been using a classic RSP unit will remember, or maybe know, that this is previously used SDR Uno, which was the forerunner of SDR Connect. This exclusively uses SDR Connect, and SDR Connect going forwards will be the go-to software program for both the ST and all the other RSP processors from SDRplay. So we're going to fire up SDR Connect now, connect into not this specific SDR, but the reason is in the shop we've had some pigeons playing seesaw on our antenna, so we're going to be using both the ST at my house, which is about 25 miles away, which is connected into a doublet, and also time permitting, SDRplay's very own ST in their premises, I think in Princess Risborough. So we can have a look at the different ways you can connect in to the RSP-ST, both using a web browser or using the client. Hi, so I've set up the laptop. I've downloaded SDR Connect from SDRplay's website. But just before I open it up, I just want to remind you that there is a very, very good in-depth video from SDRplay about their new SDR Connect software. I encourage you to have a look at that. This isn't meant to replace that. This is just my sort of takeaways of it. So have a look at that as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start up SDR Connect. If I press the right button, you'll see also I've downloaded SDR Uno, which does not work with this Spectrum processor, not this one, not yet. Okay, so in the top left-hand corner, you will see that there are a selection of thingies. In essence, I've pre-configured for remote connection using the client, which is what we're running here, the SDR Connect client, both my RSP-ST in Chorleywood, and also the one owned by SDRplay themselves. So we're going to connect into my one in Chorleywood, just because I know we've got exclusive access to that. There are also 3 different options you'll notice. There's IQ Lite, Compact, Full IQ. Bottom line is, Full IQ uses more bandwidth, but it gives you the option of recording the full IQ stream, which for some folks that's cool, because you can literally wind time back and replay the whole spectrum if you want to look at it later. So let's select IQ Lite and start up that playing. Now, what I'm going to tune into today, and I'm sorry we're not tuning into SSB, but if anyone, we're recording this on the 3rd of the 6th. Anyone that knows what's going on in the bands, they're completely dead on all the antennas today. So I'm going to tune into a really strong signal, which is radio 4, which is extremely strong. So at least we're receiving that. Just so you can get a flavour of, firstly, the absolutely amazing band scope. You know I like a good band scope, and hence why I'm very keen on flexes, amongst other things that they do. But this has got easily its number 2 band scope. Maybe Thetis from Anan is number 2, this is number 3, but it's extremely good band scope. And it's also got some other tricks up its sleeve as well. I'm just going to go through some of the features that stood out to me, and I've just got some notes down here which I'm going to look through. Yeah, so I've already covered it, mentioned it. The frequency coverage of this is simply staggering. So yeah, sure, it does HF, of course it does, and it does VLF. Well, yeah, sure. And you can get other spectrum processors and SDRs that do HF and that. Some of them do it maybe better. But this doesn't just do HF. This does up to 2 gigahertz. So let's just think, right, what's beyond HF? Well, the first thing you'll come to is VHF, and it'll be FM stereo. This radio is absolutely stunning FM stereo reception. But this neatly brings me on to another feature which I like about this radio. When you've put in the appropriate country that you're in, when you click on a specific part of the radio spectrum, it chunks out that part of the spectrum for the band scope, so you can quickly see what's going on the band scope, what's going on in the part of the spectrum that you're tuning into. So for instance, if I go to 40 meters, it will chunk out, so the broadcast bands, ham bands low. If I go to the 40 meter band, it will chunk out the ham part of the 40 meter band. And you can see I've got a really, really good antenna at home, but there's almost nothing on. Usually at this time of day, there's tons on 40 meters, just a little bit there, but it chunks it out automatically. But I'm jumping around a bit there, but I wanted to go back to the FM part of this is beyond HF. Again, of course, is this multi-mode? Oh, absolutely. SSB, AM, FM, simultaneous AM, and there will be a lot of other modules for this that are in work from SDRplay for some of the digital modes as well. Another feature I've really loved, which you don't see on many FM receivers, is the ability to adjust the de-emphasis on FM. So don't know if you know this, but to FM as standard, this is normal broadcast technique, is that to reduce the amount of hiss, i.e. improve the signal to noise ratio, FM is always broadcast with an upward slope in terms of they emphasize the top end, you know, towards the treble, and then your receiver will flatten it back down again to reduce the hiss. And so you get a more linear response and it sounds more natural. However, that's great when you're 20, but for us folks well north of 60, I've lost a lot of my top end hearing. So if you just turn off the de-emphasis, you get all the top notes get boosted, and frankly, it's just, I can hear all the stuff again. So I really like that, and it made the stereo sound fantastic. Also, it does RDS, of course, so you can see what's being broadcast. So for instance, if I tune into that now, it tells you instantly, you know, Radio 1, pop music, etc. Really like that. Just so you know, antenna's not set up, but it is an extremely good airband receiver. Extremely good airband receiver, and it's got a trigger sensitive squelch. So you can listen to all your favourite airband traffic without having to put up with all the hiss. I'm actually going to attempt to show you another very trick feature of this now, very briefly, because I did notice there were some activities on SSB. So we're just going to tune. I'm just going to set the filtering because it defaults to 1.8 kilohertz, which is a little bit tight. We're going to put it up to 2.8. Now, I'm just going to get my mouse so I can clarify this. I want you to listen now to the noise reduction. It has got, so any of you that are familiar with RM noise, I'll just mute that for a second. Any of you that are familiar with RM noise, they've baked that algorithm into the client of this software. And it is quite amazing noise reduction. It's only suitable for speech, but I'll give you an example, and one day I'll record it and maybe store it for you guys, but somebody was whistling, one of our favourite lovers, whistling over somebody speaking, and the noise reduction actually eliminated the person, eliminated the whistle, but still you could hear the person talking. Very, very clever. Just turn off the noise reduction.
I didn't quite fire it high enough, but
it is anyway, extremely effective.
We did a rocket on the second one.
Very effective noise reduction. Let's mute that for a second. Like I say, this isn't meant to be a in-depth review of SDR Connect. That's been very thoroughly done by SDRplay, but I'm very impressed by this particular unit. It's very flexible. It's one of those units that I want to stay at my house because it really does add fantastic extra capability to the receiving station. The other things that we haven't got on display today, but just so you know, we also have the equipment to be able to have this coexist with your transceiver, for instance, your Flex or whatever. So when you key down to transmit sharing the same antenna, you don't destroy your SDR receiver. We have that equipment here. We sell it. It's called from SDRswitch.com, and we've got the splitters, everything, so you can have this in addition to your main transceiver as well. So one last thing before I go, just going to give you a quick example of the noise reduction listening to Radio 4. So if I just unmute it, can you hear that background buzzing? If I put the noise reduction on.
When we pulled our guns, the girls all ran and the men threw up their hands. Celia and Ed tried to take control, ushering the employees into another smaller room.
That's a great example of the very clever voice-specific noise reduction. If you want more information on SDR Connect, there are more videos on YouTube that SDRplay have done, and also we have these in stock. If you want more, if you want to order them from us, we have them in stock. Or indeed, if you want to talk to us about them, or come in the store and see one, use one, or log into our facilities, you'll be very welcome. And thank you very much for joining Henry and I today at the showroom at Martin Lynch & Sons. Thank you.